My name is Eric Hayden. I'm a meteorologist with the Weather Service down in Newport. By Morehead City, North Carolina. We cover Dare County, so you're part of our forecast area. We're going to give a presentation from the Weather Service on preparedness tips, talking about some storm history, things to focus on beyond the storm category. And then Drew Pearson, the Director of Emergency Management for the county, is going to hone in on some specific items for the county, some alerting systems, different things that you have in the county itself, and specifically to Dare and nowhere else. Big things up front. Do one thing to get prepared. We're well into hurricane season. A lot of you being from this area know the drill. Just a show of hands, how many have lived here more than 5 years? We have new folks and then some people that have been here. So this is what we usually get with these storms. The idea is we get new people moving. You haven't been through Irene or Isabel, and others have been through all the storms. So we want to go over it. So it's not too late to become prepared. We'll talk about how we're kind of watching something off the coast for later this weekend and tomorrow. Still not too late, but it's kind of a kick in the butt that we are, around the peak of the season, so we should be paying attention. Really want you to focus on impacts and not on the category of the storm. Category is important, but it's not the whole thing. We get a lot of tropical storms in category 1s that produce a lot of damage in our area. So please never ever just focus on the category itself. And if you're going to pay attention to any aspect of the storm, water, water, water. Traditionally, that's what kills people. If you were not aware, we are predicting an active year. In fact, Drew has the updated graphic. I've got the old one. It was an 85% chance back in May. It's now a 90% chance with the updated early August. It's going to be a busy year. There's conditions out there for storms. Until I can tell you that we're going to have a storm here or not, or how many or when, the forecast is kind of neat to look at, but you should be preparing each and every year, no matter what. We could have one storm, none, or 2 the same month, or within a couple weeks. So something to kind of pay attention to, but don't hinge your plans on that only. You really should be making that hurricane kit, preparing each and every year. Show of hands, who is familiar with this website? Weather.gov, National Weather Service, NOAA. So a lot of people are. For those that are not familiar, we spent a lot of money on a campaign. It's Weather You Love. It's weather.gov. I'm just teasing. That's our little local joke. Weather.gov, in all honesty, it's $4 per person per year to fund the Weather Service. So anytime you look at a satellite, radar, whether you look at a weather app, all that weather information, that's all our information in this room, taxpayer funded. So really recommend you use our website no matter where you go or live, weather.gov, and click on the area of interest. You can get a forecast, but you can also get special information like the tropical weather briefings we put on the top of the page. So a lot of really good information on that page.
It was fun. I need to interrupt Eric, but I do this every time at this point. $4. That's what I bought Starbucks there at $3.50. $4 to fund these guys, but their budget is at risk in Capitol Hill almost every year. Currently their budget is this year, especially as we're going into the continuing resolution. So I can't encourage everybody enough. If you like the weather that you love, you like weather.gov, talk to your elected officials at the federal level. Let them know that the Weather Service is important to you. I've heard that, especially those that are going offshore, the buoys offshore are in disrepair. So what does that mean to you if you're going offshore trying to figure out what the conditions are going to be? They're not as big as they can be because they don't have the funding to do it. But even for us here, whether or not we're going to see 8 or 10 feet of storm surge, those buoys are telling us that. Not just for a hurricane, but for those rip currents that we worry about, for those conditions that we see every day. But I've gone too far already, but I've got to say it because Eric and David won't or can't, but please talk to your elected officials about the Weather Service. Let them know how important it is to you. Sorry, Eric.
No, we appreciate it. Any comments like that helps us out a lot. So weather.gov is a great resource. On our website, you can just bookmark that and you're good to go. If you want to go another step, if you're not already familiar, hurricanes.gov. Again, you can get that from our local site. That's the National Hurricane Center site. Something you should be looking at each day. Is everybody kind of looking at this already, or Tropical Weather Outlook? Your local news will be showing it. It may look in a different format than this, but it shows you a low, medium, and high chance of formation in the next 7 days. So is there anything that we need to pay attention to. So the current one, we've got Gordon out there, Francine, already over land. This is a low risk, but this has been up to a medium chance, I think, just with the update this afternoon. So that's between a 40 and 60% chance, and specifically that's over the next 7 days. It looks like it would be into the day, Sunday night or Monday, if we had to be concerned with that. Regardless of what happens with that, whether it gets a name or not, our weather is going to be pretty much the same. Rainy, could be potentially quite windy, especially if that storm organizes. Maybe some coastal flood issues, rip currents. So the change in our community, whether that gets a name or not, probably not a huge change, but it's going to be kind of a stormy weekend into early next week. So what you have outside right now is nothing to do with the tropical storm if it happens. It's just ahead of it along the front. So kind of be paying attention. The one caveat with this is a lot of the storms we get are out here and we get to track them for many, many days. If this were to form, it's going to form quickly, snap of fingers. So pay attention to this weekend. A lot of times we say don't anchor on a forecast. Don't look at the news tonight. Oh, it's just a 40% chance. Don't worry about it. I'll check Monday morning when I'm going to work. Check a couple times Saturday and Sunday, kind of keep informed what's happening, because this could kind of move quickly over the weekend if anything happens. On the Hurricane Center website, one that you are probably familiar with, the forecast cone, is the most popular graphic. A lot of people look at this. It's probably often the most misunderstood. It shows where the center of the storm is going to go. Hurricane's not a dot on a map. Just because the center of the storm is Cape Lookout doesn't mean you're not going to be impacted. You're farther north. So it is good to pay attention to, but it's not an in or out type of situation. If you're just near this cone, you should be paying attention. So keep that in mind. And I said it conveys the most likely track. 2/3 of the time it's going to be in that cone and everything's going to be fine and dandy. Occasionally we're going to get it wrong and it's going to sway one way or the other. So you really should be paying attention to that from Florida up through Delaware. You know, as we get closer in, we refine the forecast, but you really should be paying attention. And I say that things have changed a lot. Hurricane Hugo back in 1989, yes, we would issue warnings from Florida up through Oregon Inlet. Now we're much more precise with our warnings, but in the 4 or 5 day out time frame, pay attention to it whether you're in it or not. If you're near it, you should be paying attention. So a little quiz time for those that have been here less than 5 years. You get a pass. You can watch all the experienced folks and wiggle on their seats and see if they can get this one. It's all a good fun. But the point I want to make is emphasis of if you're near the cone, you should be paying attention. So this is the forecast cone 48 hours out. So 2 days before this storm hit us. Here we are. We're close, especially if this were to track on the left edge. We're really not that far. But again, that's just the center of the storm. Hurricanes are hundreds of miles across. So if this were to go on the left side of the cone, it doesn't take a meteorologist to realize you're probably going to be impacted up here, regardless of you not being in the path. So for the experienced folks, it's October. It does end up producing the highest recorded surge gauge-wise on Hatteras Island. October, and I'll give you a lifeline because I see you squirming over there. It was in the last 20 years.
It was in the last 20
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that's
So it's October. So Irene
oh
was
yeah, that's right.
August.
Irene was.
So Irene is gone. We'll take off Isabel off the board.
Right, that's off.
We'll take off Michael. It was a tropical
We
storm.
take off Dorian.
Take off Dorian. We'll even throw Florence away.
Yeah, that's right. That was August.
We'll throw Sandy to the side. We'll try to help you more. So I see you're struggling. So it was Matthew.
That was Matthew.
That was Matthew.
You
Yeah,
got
that
it
was.
right. I didn't
I love
realize
going
that
into
was
this one.
I didn't
So,
realize that was
It tracked a little closer to shore, but not crazy. But again, forecast can change. 48 hours out, especially storms that wobble, move slow, develop right off our coast. If it's coming in like a freight train, like Florence, we usually have a pretty good idea of where it's going to go. But if they form close to the coast,
Like the orange.
yes, or like one that has a big circle, we're not sure where it's going to go because it's moving so slow. These ones that crawl up the coast are really pains to forecast. So especially for the experienced folks, just to 48 hours out, if you're anywhere near that cone, we want you to be paying
We had a
attention.
bit of water in the house.
Yeah, it was a bad one. And things that you can be paying attention to are some of the graphics from the Weather Service via the Hurricane Center. One that I really like is most likely arrival of tropical storm force winds. These are in our briefings. The county boards this on. It's on the Hurricane Center site. Many places you can get it. Hurricanes.gov or our local page. The reason why I like it is, when do we think the winds are going to get here? Tropical storm force. That's your drop dead. I chose to evacuate. I need to be out of here by then. Or I chose to board up and stay. I need to be done by then. We give you a worst case scenario if something goes wrong, but this is most likely when we expect it to happen. So if you're trying to make a decision on whatever you're doing, that gives you some time frame. The other one is potential storm surge. Drew's going to talk more about this. The poles that you may see across the county and low-lying areas, the colors just so happen to match that map. Everything is together, tied together. How high is the water going to get above normally dry ground and low-lying areas by the ocean, by the sound, wherever? We will show you the potential storm surge for a specific storm. So a lot of really good information. And I specifically put social media next. We are all over social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, however you want to follow us. It is your job to follow official sources of information. There's plenty of noise out there. You can hear about storms 2 weeks out. You can hear about the worst case scenario from your backyard forecaster. Welcome to do that, but you will be wasting a lot of time and energy. You're already stressed enough. You're already amped up enough. Don't waste the time on that. Do we get every single forecast right? No. But are we very clear and concise with our message? Yes. We're not going to say this and then this. Things may ramp up and they may ramp down, but we're going to be really diligent with how we word things. And as hard as we can to get everything right with the forecast. So you can do yourself and your community a favor by following us and then sharing that information. Your like or your share button is extremely powerful, because if everybody in this room does that, then more people outside these walls see it. If nobody shares it or clicks like, it goes nowhere. We're not a business. We don't pay for ads. We don't pay for sponsorships. We rely on homegrown, organic interest. So one thing you can do to help the community definitely is follow our page and share what we do. And we'll give you specifics. We put YouTube briefings up, the same thing I'm briefing Drew about what we expect to happen. If you've got 5 or 10 minutes, you can watch exactly what we think is going to happen with the storm. So really good, useful information. Your challenge is not to find information. Plenty of information out there. Focus on official, consistent sources, the county, us, and then you'll be good to go. So hurricane preparedness, we've got a website for that. If you're familiar with our local one, just add hurricane prep. All aspects of the storm are covered here. What should you have in your kit? Having cash on hand, making sure your gas tank is full. Know your zone, evacuation zones, how to board up, trim bushes around your house, trees, anything. Homeowners insurance, that is all on there. We've got graphics in Spanish, also videos for the deaf and hard of hearing. Planning now is key. Usually I like to say it's nice out, it's quiet, but I can't say that today. But honestly, it's still pretty calm. We don't have anything crazy on the horizon. We're certainly watching this weekend, early next week, but you're not as stressed as you would be 5 days out from Matthew or Irene or Isabel or Fran. So now if you make your decisions, you'll be calm and you'll make good ones. If you're stressed, you're probably going to cut corners or maybe not make the best decision. Just think about life. When you have time to plan, you usually make a good decision. When you're under pressure, sometimes it's all right. Sometimes you just got to go with it. It might not be the best decision. So planning now is key. It's really a 3-step process. A lot of people just want to jump to what should I have in my hurricane kit, or should I leave the area? You got to start at step 1. What is your vulnerability? Where you live, you're highly vulnerable. You're on an island. You can get cut off. So your vulnerability is higher than places inland. But it also includes who is in your home. Do you have elderly parents? Do you have young kids, cats? Are you reliant on medicines? That is your vulnerability level. So for me, my parents moved down closer to me. Mom is still living. She's in Swansboro. So now I have a higher vulnerability because I get to evacuate my wife and 3 teenagers. That's a lot of fun. And then my wife with a cat. So my vulnerability is different than if I was just a young single person that could just pick up and move. So think about your vulnerability. Yes, weather, but who is in your house? Who are you responsible for? Then you talk about the kid. You're going to stay. Have food, water, and medicine, everything you need for, we say 3 days, but that's at the ground floor. That's entry level, just run of the mill. Here, 7 to 10 days probably. And food, water, medicine, non-perishables, that's the first thing you think of. But what you might not think about is your contact lenses, your prescriptions that are due to be refilled. I'm just going to run to the grocery store or the pharmacy and get them refilled. Life is not quick and easy right after a storm. So anything you need for everybody in your home, baby formula, diapers, kitty litter, whatever you need to be on your own. It's not a scare tactic. It's just reality. Afterwards, you may be cut off. The store may be not able to resupply. It takes a while to get back to normal, especially where you live, given that you're on an island. So supplies will run out. If you stock up on water, canned goods, you got plenty of time to do that. But as the storm approaches, it takes longer to get that because you may run out, and afterwards we may be out for quite some time. And last but certainly not least is please have a plan to evacuate. Even if you have never left before, even if you think you never would, at least have some sort of idea of where you would go. I like multiple options, and that includes, northern or southern route, but you just want to get out of here, away from where the storm is. We think inland, can't always go to Raleigh, Fran, Floyd, just as bad inland as it was at the coast. Sometimes you might need to go up to Richmond. Maybe go down to Columbia, South Carolina. Again, considering family and friends, a lot of people think, I'm not going to leave, I'm not going to leave. But if I need to leave, I'm just going to hit that shelter on the way out of town, or I'm just going to go down the road and go to the shelter. Shelters are safe spots. They're not the Hilton, Holiday Inn, Marriott, wherever you like to stay. It's a lot of people in one area, communal living. You'd be way more comfortable at a planned vacation somewhere else at a hotel. We live in an awesome area. People come down to visit you, I assume, by the beach. Go visit them. Return the favor. Hey, guess what? We're going to get hit by a storm. Can I come visit you? They're going to welcome you with open arms. So in all seriousness, try to have a plan, even if you don't think you'll need it. I understand a lot of people don't want to leave an area because it is going to take some time to get back. Totally get it, especially if you have a business that is your livelihood. I understand wanting to repair as quickly as possible. Totally get it. We can repair. We can't replace you. So if it's really bad, you are more important than anything else. Anything else. So just keep that in mind for those really bad storms where you probably shouldn't be here if it's really bad. So why do I hammer this home so strongly? For those that are new to the area, David probably lock the doors, make sure nobody leaves. We are the most frequently impacted stretch of coastline anywhere in the country. So when I told my daughter this, she's 16, kind of at that questioning age sometimes. She said, really? I thought it would be South Florida. I said, well, Kaylee, you're close, 6-7 years. Here's a 5 to 7 year return period. Like, how frequently do we get hurricanes? We stick out. We're by the Gulf Stream, have a long season. And if you don't believe me, just believe past history. You will hear these names. So when people talk about Irenes and Isabels, but then go back more. San Siriaco storm in 1899. We've had historic storms on our island. Gloria in the 30s, the 33 and the 44 storm. Certainly Hazel and Donna. And then more recently, at least within 21 years, Isabel, Irene, Matthew, Michael, Dorian. I left Florence off the list because you just escaped the brunt of that storm. Very, very close. So you'll hear storms. If you don't believe the frequency map, just look at all the names we have. We live in a beautiful area. A lot of years we don't get anything, but it is your responsibility to be prepared for the what if, and when it doesn't happen, then you're ready for next year, and you just restock your kit or you go forward with life. We have been doing these forums for about 6 years. We felt that we educated emergency managers, media, the public so-so. So we thought we needed to do a better job of educating the public, not scaring them, but providing them with history. So each time I do a forum, we try to give you history for Hatteras, North Topsail, Greenville. Bellhaven. Your history is all different depending on where you are in Eastern North Carolina. Each storm is different. So I thought this was interesting history from the museum just across the way. We used to have a weather service office. The weather service started in 1871, and since 1874, we've had roots in Eastern North Carolina, starting in Hatteras. A long, long time we've been in Eastern North Carolina. So that building across the street, gentlemen waded through the water in the San Siriaco storm in 1899 to get to work. Waded through waist deep water to get to work. I mean, right where we are today, across the street. Yes. So you probably already read it, but this stuns me. Hurricane was without any question the most severe of any storm that's passed over this section within memory. There are people here who can remember back to a period of over 75 years. Bad storm. Entire island was covered with water blown from the sound. So if you're new to the area, yes, we can get storm surge on the ocean side, but what you may not realize is that shallow little sound, Pamlico Sound, really can provide dramatic water level rises on the backside of the sound here. 3 to 10 feet. I'm a big basketball fan. Basketball hoop is 10 feet. That's a lot of water. We were talking about the rain today. This 3 to 10 feet, that's a lot of water. So the entire, let's see, yeah, language is inadequate to express the conditions which prevailed all day on the 17th. So again, this is not somebody hyping it up for a book. This is their log, their weather log. So we've had a dramatic history here. We'll have other storms. So you do need to kind of keep that in mind with preparedness. Yes.
How strong was the San Siriaco?
I don't remember.
I think it was
Just a one. Yeah.
just want to bring that up.
Yeah.
You're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about ones Mr. David mentioned. It was probably just a one. So a lot depends on how it comes in, how big it is, how slow moving it is. Do you have a lot of rain before it happens? You know, whatever we get Sunday and Monday, maybe a nothing, except we already have a lot of rain. We're already saturated. So each storm is unique, like our personalities, and just ones can produce a lot of issues in our area. You know, that particular storm moved whole city, Diamond City, down our way in Morehead City. People moved after that storm hit because they were tired of getting hit with storms. They inhabited Harker's Island, Pine Mill Shores for Salter Path, and Promised Land in Morehead City. So this graphic, the peak of the season is the 10th. So we're right about here. So we're still near the peak of the season. What I want to emphasize going forward is, for some of you, we can get storms in May. So don't wait until June or July. It's really May through October. So Matthew, I just mentioned, Sandy as well, into the month of October. So this is kind of a lull in awareness for new people. It's past Labor Day. The kids are back in school. The tourists have mainly moved on. It's quiet. I'm ready for pumpkin spice at your favorite coffee shop. However, this is traditionally when we have the worst storms, September and October. So just kind of keep that in mind. The peak of the season is around now in terms of intensity and frequency. So Mr. David mentioned this. We've become a lot more accurate with forecasts. Our challenge is people believing it could be as bad as it really could be, and believing that it's more than a category storm. There's been a lot of focus on, I'm not going to leave unless it's a 2. Hey, I've been here forever. Unless it's a 3, I am not evacuating. Categories are important. I'm not saying to ignore it, but it's only a small part of the puzzle. And if you need any proof for the residents, you know, we've had a lot of just ones. Just talk about Matthew and Irene. Just mention Matthew and Irene here. When a new neighbor comes into town and says, you know, I'm not leaving, that thing's just a 1. Hey, Matthew was just a 1. Irene was just a 1. So to just kind of keep that in mind. You know, Michael was just a tropical storm. I know it's a bigger impact up toward Manio, but this is what our community can look like after ones. Statistically, these are pictures all across the community, and I appreciate you set up the ones in the back. This is a great venue, so thank you very much. To show you what can happen, 85% of deaths are water related. Can a tree fall on your house? Can a power line fall on your house? Can you die because of wind? Yes. But statistically, here in our community, it's going to be storm surge, rip currents, or maybe freshwater flooding like we have today. That's probably least likely. But storm surge and rip currents are our biggest killers water-wise here where we live. Florence was down our way, but I want to show you this is not like 1960s, 1970s statistic. We lost 15, 11 were water related, all 11 were in vehicles. So never cross a flooded road. When that water comes up on the backside of the sound, get as high as you can. That water can come up very, very quickly when that wind switches around. So will the water. Past experience can be a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing. We've had a lot of storms that were just off our coast. Even Emily was bad, but it was off our coast. Can you imagine if that came in at Okokomo? We were on the right side of the storm. So a lot of times we go through storms and we think, hey, I've been through the worst of the worst, but it really depends. They may have been just offshore by 50 miles, and it makes all the difference in the world. And we already mentioned anchoring. You don't need to check every minute. I know you're going to want to. I would just say first thing in the morning and before you go to bed. That's enough to stay on top of it. You don't have to get your meteorology degree and check every run of the model that comes out. First thing in the morning before you go to bed. Has anything changed? That's all you need to do. We've done pretty good working with the county and getting out awareness. We're doing a pretty good job before the storm. I'd say much better than 10 years ago. Post-storm, we need improvement. What do I do after? And that is this community. Your after is going to be weeks and months if it's an Irene or Isabel. Again, weeks and months. So if you have a generator, know how to use it, know how to be smart. Carbon monoxide poisoning is a thing when you have it inside. Electrocution, power lines. The water is not something you want to be in. We have septic, water is nasty. So if you don't want to be in the water. We've lost people that have had injuries on their legs in Eastern North Carolina due to infection. So take it easy, take your time, get younger people to help clean up in the yard. If you don't usually do yard work, we don't need you overexerting yourself out in the yard. So don't let your guard down. We've made it through the storm. You've got your kit. You're doing okay. Take your time to get back. Take your time to get back to normal life. Don't be in a rush because we're losing people on the back end. So we're going to end with these 5 things you should focus on, and then we're going to turn it over to Mr. Drew. He's got a lot more county-specific things that are really, really good for you to pay attention to. Those are the 5 things you should pay attention to, not the category. How much rain are we going to have? What's the storm surge going to be? Rip current threat? Certainly wind is important, and then tornado threat as well. Storm surge, where we stand, is our biggest issue and killer where we are in Dare County, by far, along with rip currents. So we put that at the top. You can get cut off. This is Hatteras Island, just to the north of where we stand today, being cut off from the surge. That one was Oceanside, David, or was it Southside? Sorry, he was young at the time. Oceanside. I should have put him on the spot. He was a young kid at the time, but he's much more knowledgeable than me being here. But don't assess your storm surge based on previous storms. Just because that happened there doesn't mean it's going to happen there in the same stretch. Obviously, Pea Island and certain areas that are more vulnerable or more prone, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen in the same spot. Or just because it didn't happen before doesn't mean it won't happen the next time around. And the storm doesn't have to make landfall in our area. If we get hit down in Morehead City, Cape Lookout, you're on that right side of the storm. Doesn't mean you're not going to get really bad storm surge. The water here for those that are newer, especially the sound, it'll blow all one way. And then as people have told you, as soon as that wind shifts around, it's like a bathtub. It just rushes back. And that's pretty dramatic. In most of our area, the water, aside from the Neuse River and New Bern, doesn't really come up quick. But here is pretty unique. That storm surge is pretty quick. It can be pretty quick and devastating. This is a picture of Emily. Real bad storm in the early 90s, but keep in mind that was offshore. It could have been, a landfall or even to our west over toward Okokomo, and it still caused a lot of issues. So sometimes people can be skeptical of forecasts. I'm going to show you a couple examples. 5 to 10 feet is kind of a common value that we can predict here. You might say, come on, 5 to 10 feet. We haven't seen that before. We have. We have seen it with past storms, Isabel, and others that produce those values. So at the Weather Service, we try to talk about worst case scenarios to planners so they can protect you in terms of evacuations. This is just an example of what a Category 3 storm could do in our area. Again, these color codes match up the poles that you see in the community. I'm going to zoom down to where we were. Anywhere yellow shaded is 3 feet or greater, so oranges and reds, you're getting into 6 or 9 feet. I know we're down in Hatteras Island, but I just want to point out, you You don't have to be on an island to be vulnerable. These back end areas, Nags Head, Kill Level Hills, definitely down toward south of Oregon Inlet, Key Island, anywhere, especially Roanoke Island, Manio, are susceptible to storm surge. As we shift the view south, it's not just an oceanside thing. Again, this large body of water, the water can surge back. You got those issues, Key Island, Rhode Anthony waves. We had issues there before. And then down here at Hatteras Island, again, back end, 6+ feet can be pretty common in a storm like that, if not higher. You'll see where the little arm is here. You've got some red values of 9 feet. So we've had that before. 5 to 10, 5 to 12 could happen in a reasonable worst case scenario storm. So kind of just keep that in mind. A lot of the locals will know the high spots and where to move your car and stuff like that. But keep in mind that surge is definitely the #1 issue where we are. Flooding, I got rid of the word flash. You don't really have flash flooding here because you don't have any topography. You just have like flash ponding. It just, one lane is closed, the parking lot is closed. You don't really get flash flooding. You just get water ponding everywhere. So we will issue flash flood warnings for that. Category of the storm is not an indication of how much rain you get. For Florence, for us, that was our big storm, 20 to 30 inches of rain with a Category 1 storm. You can have Tropical Storm Drew. It's going to produce 30 inches of rain. That's going to be a problem. No number associated with it. So again, amount of rain is a big deal. And where you are, even though you don't have the topography, we're almost at sea level or just above. Anything higher than that, like the dunes, will trap water like we see on Highway 12. So anytime we get extra rain, just from like today, just heavy rain, we can have flooding in our area. I kept this slide in here to show you if you do decide to head inland, and I don't just mean Boone or Asheville, I mean west of Williamston, down through Greenville, where they do have topography, we can get flash flooding, and it can very easily cause problems. Water is very powerful, never cross a flooded road, but you don't realize that the road exists. So especially driving, I probably wouldn't drive at night. I would definitely, if you're choosing to leave before it gets here. Don't leave those outer rain bands are getting here. And I do like to point out the water pipe in this, because a lot of people say, hey, I'm one of the highest spots on the island or wherever you are. We have never flooded. I got the generator. That's all fine and dandy. But this is what's trying to get to you. First responders, water, services are cut off. So you're an island. You're on your own. So kind of keep that in mind. But I keep this one in here because I want you to be aware when you go inland, don't be in a rush to get back. If you happen to evacuate at night, just don't do it as the storm's approaching, because we can get washed out roads. And the campaign with that is turn around, don't drown. And I checked with Drew in August, and still no rivers in Dare County, right? So nothing's changed. I always tease them. Yeah. I tease them because this is not Dare County specific. This is reality. When you choose to leave the area, you're probably heading west on 64, and you're heading inland. And you may very well go to the mountains, which is fine. When you come back, Tar River, Neuse River, those rivers will flood, and they can take a while to go down. So it's just awareness. You're not going to get river flooding in Dare, but as you choose to evacuate up to Richmond or Raleigh or wherever, Charlotte, you may encounter some river flooding on the way home. Rip currents, by a factor of 4, are our biggest killer in the Carolinas. So you can add up tornadoes, lightning, hurricanes, flooding, put it all together. 4 times the amount of people die in rip currents as they do anything else. Prior to a storm this weekend, whatever happens with this, we're going to have increasing swell. Rip currents are a big issue in our community. They're to be respected, but not to be afraid of. They're breaking the sandbar, water goes out, pulls people out, does not pull people under. You swim at a lifeguarded beach, if you know to swim left or right or parallel, or just not go into the water, if it's a red flag day, you'll be perfectly fine. We've done a pretty good job at messaging, but we're still losing lives. We lost somebody in Nags Head, a couple down in Surf City. It's not ominous. It doesn't look like bad weather, especially if we get a distant storm. Lorenzo in 2019 killed 4 people in North Carolina. Dorian, remember Dorian, right? 0. So we lost 4 people in the same year that Dorian happened as Lorenzo. That was 2,000 miles away. Ernesto happened about a month ago now. We did pretty well with that messaging, but yeah, if you see these forecasts from us, prior to a storm, or even if it's over toward Bermuda, this is why we're messaging it. And you can help us again by advertising to the community. So who remembers Arthur in 2012? Some of you.
I know.
2014.
Oh, excuse me, 2014. How many of you remember Irene? So a little more. It's a little trick question. Arthur was a bigger impact on this community than it was anywhere else. Arthur was a Category 2. It hit by Cape Lookout in 2014. 100-mile-per-hour winds up here, especially in gusts. You did have some storm surge, but overall, not a huge impact as much as Irene, who was a 1. So again, Arthur was a 2, Irene was a 1. You can't just compare numbers. Irene was a really powerful storm coming in, and it decreased in terms of inner intensity, but it got bigger. Slower moving, larger storm, huge impact on our community. Wind can be impactful, but just focus on all aspects of the storm, not just what the category rating. The other thing I want to point out, for most of us, it wasn't a big deal farther west, but the wind field with some of these storms can be quite narrow. So let's say it's coming into Morehead City and you're just really not all that worried. It doesn't have to take much of a shift, 20, 30 miles to the east, and then you are getting really bad winds. So again, paying attention to that forecast code. If you're anywhere near it, you should be paying attention, not just exact landfall. Last but not least, tornadoes. The thing's already spinning. You're probably not going to evacuate for a tropical storm. I get it. That's no problem. That makes a lot of sense. But it also makes a lot of sense to make sure this is powered up and on, and not like what I do at night. I actually do turn it on Do Not Disturb, turn the silence down so I'm not getting bothered. Please leave this on, powered up at night. Please have a weather radio so you have another way to get warnings. Tornadoes in the tropical system spin up really quick, and they can cause enhanced areas of damage. You might have not much impact at all from a hurricane or tropical storm, but these enhanced areas can be bad. We saw this with Hermine. The folks that were in this structure got the warning that was issued by our office, got out of that structure to a safe place, and they were in much better shape than if they were in the water like that. So we will issue tornado warnings. Keep in mind, hundreds of miles across. Down our way, we had an EF2 with Dorian and Emerald Isle, the first outer rain bands reaching our coast. So again, a storm could be plowed into Wrightsville Beach. You're like, hey, I'm good to go. If any of those rain bands make it up here, you're certainly at risk for tornadoes. So what can you do now?
Tornadoes too. I think Debbie kept you guys busy on
Yes.
radar. Debbie spawned a lot of tornadoes. Not here.
Yes.
Across North Carolina, South Carolina. Debbie was a big maker. They do happen.
They do happen, and with Debbie, like Drew was saying, in our forecast area, we had an EF2, 130-mile-per-hour winds, and that same one toward Wilson killed a person. It was EF3. It goes from 0 to 5 on the scale. That's a big tornado. So they can happen, and it's good to pay attention to, have those ways to get warnings so that you get lowest level away from windows. So what can you do now? Sounds a little overwhelming. You get a lot of storms, you get all this crazy surge. We live by the beach. We live in an awesome area. You just have to be on top of preparedness. That's all it is to it. All the stuff Drew's talking about, sign up for it. Pay attention. Be an advocate for the community. Get that out into the community. And then you just go about with your day. We either have it or we don't, and you're prepared. People that weren't here today, because we had all this rain, share this with them. We're recording it. It's on YouTube. We'll post it. The county can share it. NWS Morehead City. We did one up in Avon. We did one in Manio. Pretty similar talk, except the pictures are a little different. Otherwise, the information is the same.
Did one in Exit too, or?
Did one in accent too? Yeah, I forgot. We've done a lot. I mean, both together done a lot. Focus on the impacts, not just the category, and don't forget about after the storm. One way you can help us and the county is work with us. Host talks like this, come to your church, public event, wherever you want us to do. The ambassador program is something we run in the Weather Service to connect with you. If you sign up as a business or entity, it's not like an individual. You'll get preparedness information throughout the year, not just hurricane information. And then we can drop off rip current brochures by the thousands if you've got a rental agency or HOA, anything you need. It's really just to connect us to the community. We've done book talks in Aurora, school visits. A lot of our schools, the hospital up in the northern part of the county signed up. So it's just a way to connect with community. If you're interested after Drew's talk, you can talk to me. Otherwise, I'll get ready to turn it over to him. And the bottom line is just we want to be in the community as much as possible. But like Miss Natalie had us up here, we wouldn't be here without facilities like this. So if you want us up here, invite us, and we will be up here to do weather safety. The way you do that, you can email me. You might have to email a couple times because Drew likes to tease me. I get a lot of email. So if I don't respond right away, just email me again. And it's the address is up there. So before I turn it to Drew, he's got some really good information from a county perspective. Are there any questions about what I covered? And if you know, at the end, you can ask, and you can also ask me in person when we're closing up. Anything that confused you or any questions you have? Weather.gov?
It's like, I have a comment.
Yes.
I wanted to say thank you all for doing the updates on the weather.gov site. When you take it in, like the little, you were saying you do the YouTube videos.
Yes.
It's always nice to be able to just click on that and see the updated information
right.
for our area.
Yes.
And it's almost always exactly right. You can see a bunch of other input. And
Yes.
But you all have been pretty
I appreciate that.
good for many years. So
It-
thank
it's-
you for that.
I appreciate the comments, and it's by men and women at the office 24/7. Even my daughter teases me. She'll pull up the phone, app, the weather. I'm like, just cringing. Not that it's not right sometimes, but a lot of those are straight computer model, no human influence. Not saying we get every single forecast right, but trust somebody that has been in the community since 1874, that lives down the road from you, that drove 4.5 hours to be here today over something that's just auto-generated. This has use. I'm not saying it doesn't have use, but trust people that live in your community to try the best for you. That's what I would say with that. All right, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Drew. I'm going to.
Eric makes that transition. I got to say, I'll tell you a little inside the story on the joke about emails. Eric, every so often, will pull up his account on the screen like this, and he's going to see 1,792 in his inbox. So, hey, Eric, what's up with that? You got to do something. Not even just delete them all. He goes, well, I always read yours, Drew. I always read yours.
It's actually like 55.
Yeah.
I have to pick something too.
For the,
You gotta be.
yeah, weather.gov. You don't even need the URL. There's the weather you love, weather.gov. www, seriously, weather.gov, and then you just click on part of the state, East North Carolina location. And the reason why I say weather.gov is if you go up to Maine for vacation, Hawaii, when you click on the area of your interest, you'll get the local office. So yeah, weather.gov and no www or any of that. That's the one thing we got right with the website.
And I will say, Eric is so polite with Mr. Drew and Mr. Dave, but he doesn't tell you actually who people are here. Dave is actually the meteorologist in charge of our weather service office. And so you got the guy who runs the weather service in our area, and he's been an advocate. He's been here in this community well before I got here 10 years ago. He knows our community. He knows the impacts we see. And he's got Eric. He hired Eric. Eric's been at the weather service for a while, but he came to our area 14 years ago, Eric, 10, 14 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. And Eric is our warning coordination meteorologist. He's the guy who's working to make sure we got the best information possible. And I tell you, it's hard to follow him because he's polished. He's up there. He's able to talk. He used to be a broadcast meteorologist. So he used to be the guy at the other end with the cameras. Thinking, hey, what are you doing? Now he's here telling us about what's going to happen in our community. And he's just a godsend to have him as presenting to us. I got James Wooten here. James works for me up at their county emergency management. James is our planner, so he's here as well. So that's what you have with you. It's not, Mr. David, you got the meteorologist in charge. He cares about us. He's here with us. He put a very talented meteorologist to help us share some information. I get those big long meteorologists twist my tongue up.
See, I cheat and just say meteorologist.
But it's really great to be here with you. I am Drew Pearson. I'm your emergency management director, and it's great to be here at the Day of the Docks. Eric said I was going to have my slides in here. This was the original forecast. I do go and throw in. If you have good eyesight, you can see the red lines to the ones that happened already to include forward. But they did go and update the forecast back in August, and they haven't gotten away from it. It's still an active season, as as Eric said, we're just getting to the peak of it. It's not over yet. And I hope we don't see all the storms get forecast, but I hope we never see any of them here, but it only takes one. And that storm may not have come here yet. I don't think it's going to be here this weekend, but the big one hasn't come here yet, but it's still coming before the end of this hurricane season. And I'm able to share, while we're talking about hurricanes here, this isn't a seasonal problem. You guys worry about northeasters too. Worry about those other events that don't get named, but they come all year round. We can have events like this. They may not be named, they may not be predicted by the Hurricane Center, but we still have those storms that can bring storm surge to us, high winds to us, and impact to us. And our pros down in Newport, Morehead City are doing all that. They're writing those forecasts, putting out the coastal flood advisories, they're sharing that information with us, just like it is hurricane season. Doing it year round for us to make sure we're safe. But it only takes one. Eric, they used to have a whole bunch of slides on preparedness in here, but Eric does such a great job of that. So I cut those out. I moved those around and cut mine down, but we get asked a lot about how are decisions made. We got asked a lot before COVID, we got a lot during COVID, and we got a lot after. So we put together a video to show it. I'm going to play that video. If you've been here for a while, you're going to recognize people. You might recognize me a little thinner, a little more. You may not get big, but you're going to recognize people in there. But some of them may not be part of our team anymore. They may not be an elected official anymore in our county. But it doesn't matter who's saying it. The message is still the same. So let me play this in it's about 5 minutes.
On this delicate sandbar, emergencies happen every day and tough decisions need to be made. Most days, those decisions are made by first responders who take action and solve problems quickly using the authority and resources they have at hand. But what happens when an emergency exceeds their capabilities or has the potential to bring widespread impacts to a town or across the entire county? The impacts can come from anywhere: a storm, a man-made disaster, a public health crisis, an act of terror, civil unrest, or a chemical release, just to name a few. When we are facing widespread or severe damage, injury, or loss of life or property, how are decisions made to keep our community safe?
In North Carolina, counties and towns operate under authority granted by state statute. For emergencies, North Carolina General Statute 166A, the Emergency Management Act, provides the authority and responsibility that local governments have to prevent, prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies. The Act defines an emergency as an occurrence or imminent threat of widespread or severe damage, injury, or loss of life or property resulting from any natural or man-made threat or hazard. Counties are responsible for emergency management efforts to include coordinating activities with towns. To meet this responsibility, counties and towns establish emergency management agencies, expend funds to keep people and property safe, implement emergency management plans, provide emergency management response resources, and declare local states of emergency when needed to ensure public health and safety. The county or a town will declare a local state of emergency when they believe an emergency exists or is imminent. And dare each town in the county have an emergency management ordinance that designates the authority to declare a state of emergency to the town's mayor, the chair of the board of commissioners, or their designee. While these individuals have the authority to declare a state of emergency and impose prohibitions and restrictions, they need the best information available to make the best possible decisions to protect public health and safety.
When an emergency has occurred or is looming on the horizon, we turn to our emergency operations plan. The plan, required by Chapter 92 of the Dare County Code, provides a framework that brings decision makers, subject matter experts, and others together to share information and coordinate decision making. In the plan, we use the term senior leaders to identify decision makers who have the authority to declare a local state of emergency and impose restrictions and prohibitions. The term is also used to describe others who have authorities they can use independently to protect public health and safety. The National Park Superintendent and the Dare County Sheriff have authorities outside of the Emergency Management Act, making them key senior leaders who routinely collaborate and coordinate actions with the chair of the Dare County Board of Commissioners and our town mayors. When challenges arise and actions are needed to ensure public health and safety,
our senior leaders, along with other key personnel, come together. They meet either in person or virtually and receive briefings from subject matter experts on what to expect, ways to mitigate impacts, and how best to protect our community.
While we always focus on ensuring public health and safety, we never set aside how actions taken impact business and community activities. Often, senior leaders will reach out to key partners and community leaders to gather information and keep them informed as tough decisions are made. Depending on the circumstance, a state of emergency may be declared. While no one wants to impose prohibitions and restrictions, we know that without them, those we serve may be put unnecessarily in harm's way. While each senior leader has independent authority, either from the Emergency Management Act or other statutes that allows them to take actions on their own, they always strive to reach consensus. Once decisions are made, they are captured in a written state of emergency declaration that is quickly communicated to the public and implemented. As the situation changes, decision makers are briefed, and if changes are needed, the declaration is updated with prohibitions and restrictions being added or removed. These efforts continue until the emergency no longer threatens public health and safety. When an emergency crosses jurisdictional boundaries or is anticipated to bring widespread impacts to the county, a state of emergency may be signed by the chair of the Board of Commissioners, outlining all decisions and detailing who provided consent. Often towns will issue their own declaration signed by their mayor. At times, a declaration may be issued by just the county or a town.
Just like the everyday decisions made by a lifeguard, a law enforcement officer, a firefighter, an emergency medical technician, or a 911 call taker to save lives and protect property, senior leaders are empowered to take action to ensure public health and safety when our community is facing widespread or severe damage, injury, or loss of life or property. These are tough decisions made with the best information available from subject matter experts and key stakeholders that lead to actions that protect our community until emergency conditions are no longer present. For more information, visit www.darenc.com/emergency management.
So in that video, you saw a guy near the end like this, blue shirt, gray shirt. That was Scott Kennedy. He works for David and Eric, whatever. They deploy instant meteorologists to us. So during Dorian, we had a weather service meteorologist up in our EOC giving us that real-time information as we look at what the storm is going to do. So we bring that information to the decision makers. And you're all probably sitting down here on Hatteras Island going, who's talking for me? Because you hear a lot about towns in there. But I'm going to tell you, Bob Woodard never leaves Hatteras Island out. Danny Couch is either sitting next to him or on the phone, and we're reaching out. Whether it's Steve Kovacs calling fire chiefs, Steve's our fire marshal. Yes, Greg Tice, the fire chiefs, our EMS folks are down here, where we're reaching out to the property management companies down here. If anybody that works for one of those, you know there's been changes in those things. The Wacasa has changed the lay of the land out here, but we do reach out to anybody we can to get a sense of what's going on in your community. We call the red and white and say, what's going on? What's going on? We're doing that, and we're bringing that information in. You're not lost on it. Even though you don't have a mayor and a town down here, we are reaching out to not just Hatteras, but anywhere in unincorporated there to get the best information we have. You all have a lot of people who live down here. There's about 5,000 who live out unincorporated there in Collington Harbor. We're reaching out to those people, getting that information in. So we have that, even though you may not feel like you're represented with a mayor, Bob Woodard and our team are working to get that information in. So I hope you rest assured of that, because we're committed to making sure we have the best information possible at the point of time we need it to make the best decision possible to ensure public health and safety. Okay? That doesn't always come across in that video. You see a lot of towns, you see a lot of info, but unincorporated there is us, and we care. We want to get those things in so we can make those right decisions. So with that said, the next slide is what's my risk? Eric talked about risk, and it's really great the way he shares it. It's not just about where you live, it's who's with you, all those other things in your life that are going on. You know, if you're the young Drew Pearson, age 30, who's living down here all by himself, I'm feeling more comfortable. 65-year-old Drew Pearson, I'm not as comfortable as I was, you know, and it might have been that long since the last storm. Life people's change, their lives change, their position change, what they can do change. And you got to keep that in mind. Vulnerability matters. But when you look at risk, I don't, we have to slide in here. This flood zones maps are driven by insurance purposes. I don't know if anybody saw a benefit when our new maps came out, but across the county, we had thousands of people, thousands of properties moved out of the AD zone and into the X zone. Guess what? Those X zone properties are still going to flood. And it's not that they're not going to flood, they're still going to flood. They flooded before, they're going to flood again. But you really just need to make sure that you have your property insured. Don't ever trust them. I'm going to say this out loud. Don't trust the government, except the local guy. but don't trust the government to solve the problems, because they're not. The government's not going to fix you. You have to have the insurance. You have to have those things in place to take care of yourself. So please, if you have flood insurance, it's the best thing. If you have property insurance, make sure your property is up to date. Make sure it's. I know people are getting dropped. There's things going on with the insurance industry, but without it, you don't have anything, and you're going to lose everything. So please, please, please get that flood insurance. But if you don't know what your flood risk is, you can go to that website, North Carolina Flood. Put your address in there. It'll tell you what your zone you're in. If you're lucky enough, you don't have to have a mortgage. You may not have flood insurance, but please, even if you don't, please try to have it if you can. This risk matters. The X zone does flood. Then, talk about storm surge and how deep we'll get. You know, we did put some displays out across the county. You know, I'll talk about it. There's another video I'm going to show you. It will show you a little bit about how to understand storm surge. It's pretty simple to understand. Just standing outside, you know, 6 foot tall. They say 6 foot. Guess what? It's going to go bad. We really have to struggle with that though. You'd be surprised how many people don't get it. So we put this video together. It talks about storm surge, but it also talks about some of the technology we've put into the county to help us know what is going up and going down.
Most people know what to expect and do when the National Weather Service issues severe weather watches and warnings. When a hurricane warning is issued, they know it is time to finish preparations and evacuate, since hurricane force winds are expected in the next 36 hours, making outdoor activity unsafe. But not everyone knows what to do when the storm surge watch or warning is issued, or just how life-threatening storm surge can be.
I'm Jamie Rome, Deputy Director with the National Hurricane Center. Did you know that storm surge is often the deadliest and most hazardous part of a hurricane? And while our ability to forecast and warn on this hazard has dramatically improved over the years, we're now working on public awareness with our partnership with Dare County.
Now, new technology and interactive displays on the Outer Banks are aiming to change that.
Over the past 10 years, storm surge forecasting has really changed at the Hurricane Center. They started to use depth above ground. And as we started to see those products come out, we started to see people going, what's that actually mean? And then we had some storms that impacted us here on Bay Drive, Tropical Storm Michael, where we saw rapidly rising water levels that were forecast to be 2 to 4 feet above ground. And we had a lot of people get impacted by it. Their cars got flooded, their homes got water into them. They felt like they weren't informed about how deep it was going to get, and led us to think that we needed to help people understand what those forecast products mean and really how deep it might be.
As Director of Emergency Management for Dare County, Drew Pearson began to develop a new kind of display, one that could easily be understood by every passerby.
We wanted to make people aware of how deep it might get by putting this pole out in 3-foot increments, but we also put an interpretive display out that explains not just the pole, but the products that are put out by the Hurricane Center. So we're hopeful that people can come out, take a look at the displays, take a look at how deep it might get, and then go back home and realize that when they say there's going to be 1 to 3 feet of storm surge in their community, it's going to get up there.
Each color on the 12-foot pole represents 3 feet of water above ground. The eye-catching colors are the same ones used by the National Hurricane Center on their inundation maps.
I'm truly hopeful that every resident, visitor, and person who comes to the Outer Banks who sees one will know what they need to do when the storm surge forecast is issued to protect their lives and property. Our mission will be complete if we don't have cars inundated with water, if we don't have people stuck in their homes as rapidly rising water comes around their home and comes up into their living spaces. And I would call a mission complete if we have people saying, I saw that display, I knew what I needed to do when the forecast came out.
The storm surge poles have been placed at 27 locations around the Outer Banks, including town halls, beach accesses, the ferry terminal, and sound access points.
Across the country, there's been various efforts to really try to demonstrate water level, especially when it comes to storm surge. We have a new partnership with Dare County. We are so excited. We are actually going to get a storm surge pole that we could use to demonstrate both on media interviews, tours, to actually show those water levels.
While understanding storm surge is important, actually knowing when water levels are changing is just as critical. To improve water level monitoring and alerting, Dare County has installed 12 new flood gauges. The gauges will become part of North Carolina's emergency management statewide effort to support risk-based decisions regarding flooding using the Flood Inundation Mapping and Alerting Network, also known as FIME.
These flood inundation mapping alerting network system gauges that we're having installed, there's a box that's installed on the side up here. It's got a sensor that comes out. In that sensor, it sends a signal down to the water and it comes back up. And as the water level changes, the signal distance changes and it tells us whether it's going up or down.
Anyone can view water levels and sign up for alerts from local FIME gauges at fimen.nc.gov. In addition to use by the general public, the National Weather Service uses gauge information to refine their forecast and warning products.
Dare County's new gauges are adding tools to our toolbox that can help us with rising ocean and soundside water level rises. We're so excited about the new real-time water level information that's available. Having it will help us improve our forecast products, which will help us carry out our mission of protecting life and property.
With better ways to measure floodwaters and increased awareness of what surging waters can do, hopefully Outer Banks locals and visitors will now know what to do in the event of a storm surge warning.
Yeah, please, no, but the nearest pole to us is over in front of the weather station. One at the ferry terminal, there's a couple up and down the Outer Banks. The nearest.
I get the alerts, like the text alerts and the email alerts.
Yeah, oh,
They're
great.
really wonderful.
Yeah, I would just say that they just transitioned to a new website at FIME. It's relatively, maybe 6 months ago. But there is a way to go and sign up, get those alerts. The nearest gauge for here is Slash Creek. It's on the bridge. It's going to be moved. I'll go to the condominium area, but they're out looking at it. But if you see a gauge, please take good care of it. We had stuff disappear off of them, disappearing solar panels. Our state is maintaining them. But if you're seeing that Slash Creek's not doing it, I was doing it a while ago. It was giving erroneous information out. It was up and down all the time. And just don't go and get the spider on it. No, because the spider like to walk across. It's one of the problems. But if you go by and you see it and you see that there's a missing piece or it just doesn't look right, let us know. There's a phone number. This one.
Contact the state elements and move on the Slash Creek.
Okay, yeah. Oh, great, yeah. Good. Well, nice to meet you all. Yeah, David's gonna reach out to you. There's a guy named Ben Whitford, in North Carolina, reaching out to you too. This guy's trying to get a permission, right, so he can put it there, but he's gonna take care of it. Our state does manage to take care of it for us. We bought them, we spent county tax dollars to buy them, to get them in, because we really wanted to get them into every neighborhood. And we've tried to do that, but we're relying on the state, so it's not working. Call the state, say they can work and keep the pressure on, because they get the call from me and they're tired of it. But to hear citizen who relies on it, it's even more important. But so we do have a good program with our storm surge poles. And I just got to say, you saw Jamie Rome in that video down at the Hurricane Center. He's in North Carolina. He knows us. I think he went to NC State. He Roanoke Rapids, I think is where he's from. He used to vacation, he used to fish out here. He knows us. He knows our community. Ken Graham, he's a Louisiana guy. He wasn't stationed up here, but a great guy at the Weather Service. But the current Hurricane Center director, this guy named Mike Brennan, These are North Carolina State graduates as well. They know us. They know us. They care about us down at the Hurricane Center. They know your community almost as good as David and Eric do and we do, but we got great partners there. So with that said, I'll move on to my next slide. Evacuation zones. We do have, how many do you think we have in our county? 2. We got A, and we got B. Okay, and it's pretty simple. You guys look outside. There's not much high ground around us. What zone do you think you're in? A, yeah, the whole Hatteras Island. That's zone A. What do you think zone B is? The rest of the county. It's zone A or B, but we do say zone A or B when we issue our evacuation orders. But we also say Hatteras Island, and we say the villages. We lay it out in plain language as well. But if you ever wanted to know, and if you're not here, if you have vacation somewhere else in the hurricane-prone area, you can go to evacuation zones, know your zone, type in your address, and it'll tell you what zone you're in. Wherever you are, wherever there's evacuation zones in place. But for us, zone A, all of Hatteras Island, zone B, the rest of the county. And it's important because this tells you when you need to get up and go. The flood risk doesn't tell you that. This tells you when you need to get up and go. Right? We do have evacuation routes. Pretty simple for you all. You got to go, unless you want to take the ferry. Unless you want to get off and go the other way on the ferry. It's pretty simple. You got to go up 12, right? But when you get up to 12, you get well known. The quickest way out of here, I say this now, but the bridge over the Sound is going to have some challenges up here as they take it down to 2 lanes for a while. But go out 64, get away, get to 95, get out that way. If you're going to visit friends up in Tidewater, you might get there quicker going out to 65 and up 95 if Tidewater is evacuated. So you just be mindful. We do have a little graphic on that about the 2 different ways to get out of here. You don't need a big sign to follow your evacuation out. So only one way in, one way out. So it's simpler for us in most communities, but those are the 2 ways out. I'm going to ask Eric to count how many times I say this. Don't go to a shelter. I'm not trying to break my records. Eric already started the theme on here. But please have a plan. Even if you've never had a plan before, if you can go back and think about having a plan about what you're going to do. Because if you don't have a plan, you won't know what to do when you need to do it. When that storm you've never thought of would come is coming your way. And we got a storm surge watch in the morning that say it's going to be 9 to 13 in your village. Please have a plan. Make sure that plan includes your best friends that have just visited you. Make sure it includes a hotel somewhere. Make sure it's somebody who loves and cares for you. My plan is I go to the EOC. My wife goes to visit our family, our kids in Virginia. If that part of Virginia is going to be impacted, she goes to the kids in DC. If that's going to be impacted, she goes out to Western Virginia where other kids go. Or she goes to New Jersey with her family. But have a plan. Our plan does not involve a shelter. Do not let your plan involve a shelter. Please do not. Shelters are not where anybody needs to be. They need to be there if they don't have any place else to be safe. That's all they're going to get. They might not even get a hot meal. They might not even get a cot. They might get a blanket and some water, but they're not going to get much more in that initial sheltering place. They're going to get a safe place. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure it doesn't include a shelter. That's 4 times. But I'll wrap it up with, if you know somebody who can't have a plan, that doesn't include a shelter, we will get them to a shelter. Shelters are a safe place to go to. We will have them call us. We will get them on a bus. We will get them to a safe place. But please encourage them to work on having a place that doesn't include a plan, that doesn't include a shelter. Shelters are not where you need to be. But please, if you don't have a plan, have one now. Here's some resources that will help you build that plan. ReadyNC.gov. You can also go to FEMA.gov. You can go to the Weather Services site. But ReadyNC.gov is our state's preparedness site. And you can't read what's on there, but all those boxes say something, like have an evacuation, what my kid needs to have in it, what do I need to do for certain things. It's on there. And if all fails with your plan, folks are with you, don't like it that much. You show up the doors are locked, the lights are out, you can't get in. The kids say, I don't know you anymore. You can always go to ReadyNC.gov. And when shelters open up, they'll be displayed in here, and they'll give you driving directions to a shelter. So there are ways to get information, but 6th time, have a plan. Make sure it doesn't include a shelter. Be sure you're going someplace else, but if you need it, it's there for you. And help you develop your plans, go to readync.gov. This is, I moved here about 10 years ago. And you guys down here in Hatteras Village are even more at this. You take care of each other. You look after each other. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's a village, you take care of. But look after your neighbors. If you know somebody who might need some help, we do have a special medical needs registry that people can sign up and get their name on it. I'm going to play this video, and I'm hopeful that when I hit this, the black box doesn't come up and cover the speaker's face, but I've tried to fix it 3 times. We're going to see if I did it this time. But, oh, there it's still there.
I'm Chuck Lysette, Director of the Division of Social Services of the Dare County Department of Health and Human Services. The Special Medical Needs Registry is an emergency preparedness tool used by Dare County for communicating with medically fragile individuals, for pre-event planning, and if needed, for evacuating before a disaster. Our Adult Services Unit oversees the registry for Dare County residents. Who should register for the Special Medical Needs Registry? Dare County residents who would need assistance with medical care and/or personal care during an evacuation or a hurricane, or those who may need assistance while they are sheltering during a storm due to their physical and/or mental impairments, should register. The registry is not just for the elderly population in Dare County. It's not just for social services clients. Participation in the registry is voluntary, and all information will be kept private and confidential. Also, anyone who uses oxygen and/or receives dialysis is strongly encouraged to register. These are 2 critical needs that can be impacted if access is limited to where the person lives after the event, or if power is lost during the event. The Special Medical Needs Registry is important because Dare County and local municipality officials also need to know where the area's most vulnerable residents are so that they can contact them quickly before and after an emergency occurs. Once you register, you will remain on the registry and do not need to re-register each year. Each May, a social worker will contact you to verify and update your information. Each time an event is approaching, you will be contacted. Based on the information you provided, we will work with you to make sure you are ready to implement your evacuation plan. We will remind you to take your essential medications and medical supplies, medical equipment, any special food you require, important documents, and a driver's license or other identification. If an evacuation is ordered, we can assist with transportation to a shelter. Individuals who require a dialysis or oxygen will be evacuated to a location in proximity to these services. As a reminder, plan ahead for disasters, as resources can be very limited during an emergency. In addition to registering for the special medical needs, it is important that you take a few minutes to register for OBX alerts and create a smart 911 profile. By completing both, you will receive public safety and routine alerts and notifications from local officials, and we will be able to review your potential needs as we prepare for a storm. Finally, develop your evacuation plan now, including where you will go and how you will get there. If you or someone you know may benefit from being added to the Special Medical Needs Registry, please visit darenc.gov/special needs or call the Division of Social Services at 475-5500.
I should say we are lucky they're kind of have a social services department like that. They're an amazing group of people that take care of those people that need help, people that are really have challenges, but there also are one of the ways we get to our unserved people. We struggle with that sometimes. There are people that don't want to talk to someone who's wearing a shirt with a logo on it, but they'll talk to a social worker. They're able to get information to them and help them make decisions as well. Getting official information is really critical. Eric doesn't, I can't do the same job that Eric does with trusted sources of information. I do hope you trust your local government. I do hope you trust the Weather Service. I do encourage you, is everybody signed up for OBX alerts? Please, if you haven't, I'm not going to, there's the video embedded in here. I'm not going to play that one, but OBX alerts is our way to get information to you. It is. OBX alerts is how we branded it. But if you're getting a text message that says Dare County, if it's a text message or your phone, that's OBX alerts. You can also get emails from the county by going to the website and putting your information in on the public information page. You get emails on other things. But again, OBX alerts is our advanced notification system. We utilize for not everything. But there are some other ones, like eventually, but OBX alerts is how we reach people. We do have the ability to make your phone do whatever it was just fun. You rattle and roll in the middle of the night using the integrated public alert warning system. We're able to send wireless electronic alerts to you people. So it's not just the people that sign up for OBX alerts. Yeah, we can get to our visitors by making their phones rattle, just like an Amber Alert or Tornado Watch in the morning. We have that ability to utilize that. We don't do that. We try not to do that. We don't want to do that. But when we need to wake somebody up and let them know it's time to get up and go, or water's coming or changing, we have the ability to do that. Eric mentioned making sure it's charged up and turned on. You really also need to take one more step. You go make sure you have your notifications turned on for government alerts. The only one you can't turn off is a presidential alert that comes out in DC. The other ones you can deselect. The public safety ones you can deselect. So please check in your phone. I can't speak much to Google or Apple. It's on the notifications, turn it on. Anyway, if it's somewhere else, but make sure those are turned on because it won't work. If you have friends that are visiting with you and they don't want to do that profile, if you don't want to do the profile, you can just text their emergency alerts to 77295 and you will get signed up to get text alerts from us for any emergency shout. So many ways to get this.
Simon also.
Yeah, these aren't tied together.
They are not.
They're not tied together.
So is it a good idea, flood zone, then to have Simon also?
I would,
Yeah.
and I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I would sign up. And Fineman is a separately managed site managed by the state. It doesn't, can't make them talk. But if you do sign up for OBX alerts, you can select National Weather Service alerts. And when they issue a tornado watch or warning or anything, you'll go to your phone and it'll also come to you via OBX alerts. You'll get it multiple ways. So it's good to have more than one way to get information. And OBX alerts like that. Fineman's not tied together. Yeah. All right.
Whether you live.
Eric talked about ocean hazards. I get people coming to visit with you. OBX beach conditions 77295. We'll push them the weather service forecast in the morning. They'll get our morning beach condition reports. You'll know what's going to be going on in the beach. And distant hurricanes can be deadly. We currently got red flags flying and that's northeasterly pushed for a while. The ocean is a hazardous place, but you can always visit and love the beach, respect the ocean. We got some great videos on there, safety information that people can use. And we're trying to get it to the people that don't know the ocean, don't know the hazards that are there. Our visitors are coming so they can make the best decision possible, whether it's a good day to go to the beach or a good day to go fishing. Not standing in the water, get on your boat, spending the money differently. Yeah, we have a partnership with the water park up in Hatteras. Red flags go up, they get $5 discount, and we put that on our website. We're trying to build those partnerships. Go to the Duck Donuts up there in Avon and show them you signed up and get donuts. So we're trying to build those things for those red flag days, and people can do something else rather than go to the beach. This is almost near my inside. I both project could take a long time. I can't remember one of the first times they came down here. Ernie and Lynn Foster were telling me about the joys that they experienced in the recovery department. This part of your not just off for months. It can take a long time, but it's always driven by public safety when we're working to try to get people. We want to get people back, and we want to get them back to a place where they can be safe. They're not going to be perfectly safe. We're just getting the process going. We want to make sure the firefighters are able to fight fires. We want to make sure EMS is here, the law enforcement is out, but it may not be perfect yet. It's not going to be like it was before the storm, but we're working to get it that way. But we want to get our people back. We want to get it started, but it can take a long time. We do have a stage process to do that. We want to make sure we get our people back that we need to take care of the doctors and nurses. We bring them in. Because we want them to go too. They may not need to be here during the storm, but we want to get them back. Permanent residents, critical businesses, we want to get you back. We want to get our businesses back. Because without you, you can't get back to your home. You can't figure out what's happened to you. But we also can't get our workforce back. We got to get the workforce back, start opening things up start getting to the new normal. So that's our priority 2 reentry. So if you are a Dare County resident, you can get a reentry permit. It's something like going to our website, Dare reentry. But if you have a driver's license with the Dare County address on, that's all you need to show at the checkpoint. Is that driver's license with the Dare County address on it. Then we look at our non-resident property owners and our non-critical businesses. They're important to us as well. Some of you, so you haven't been here more than 5 years, you might have been non-resident property owners in the past. But now you're residents here with us, but we want to get them back. But we need to get them back when we can support having them. We can't just bring them back at the same time. We may not have the hospital. We may not have the EMS. We may not have all those things we need to support that population that comes with that as we start to bring our so we manage that pretty closely. And it's not county-wide. We may take it down to a little area where we're managing reentry differently. We may open up other parts of the county never quite that. It may not be Hatteras Island, but it may not be Roanoke. It may be it's managed differently. It's always focused on that public safety. Third time, it didn't take a long time, so be patient. OBX alerts is a good thing because it doesn't matter if you're in Dare County or if you're in Richmond. You're still going to get the information from us, and we can get that information to you via OBX alerts to tell you what we're doing, how we're working towards trying to keep it from. These are 2 videos. And some of you may have lived through some of this stuff already. It's those that have lived here on Hatteras Island for a long time. First one is Don't Be Tommy. These are short ones. Second one is Don't Be Debbie. But I think they're pretty self-explanatory.
You can't realize what your house is like when it starts flooding. Everything floats. You can't get in the hallway. You got to fight to get where you're going. The door sucks too. You can't hold it. I don't know how long we do it. I don't know how high this water's going to get. We're going to be trapped like rats in here. I saw Jeff outside that door.
So Tom experienced that Hurricane Michael on the Gulf Coast of Florida. That's what he was talking about. That was I think 9 to 14 feet storm surge that Michael brought as a rapidly intensifying hurricane coming ashore in the Gulf Coast of Florida. It was a smaller, less powerful storm, but grew to a Cat 5 in less than 24 hours. Came ashore, and then Michael came to us too. When I talked about the storm surge, that's the same Michael. Michael came to us with just as a tropical storm inlet, and it brought that damage to us. But that's the storm Tom was dealing with. Debbie was dealing with the same storm.
When the word came out that there was mandatory evacuation, we evacuated. We might not be here if we had. I just feel numb. I don't think I processed it yet.
People ask, is that the wind that did all that? The storm surge did all that. It was almost brand new wall built over not that long ago. So it is the water that gets us. We'll never see that here. We could see that. We almost saw that here in Florida. And we have seen it probably about the 1800s where it was seen. We could see that. It's a possibility. So this weekend. But get ready, okay? Sign up for OBX alerts, run in the water, hide in the wind. And then our hurricane guys are there. Please take them with you. Take all of them with you. Take some of our posters with you. Give them to your friends and neighbors. Spread them around the village. Share them with whoever you can. The guide is also available as PDF. It's on our website if you want it electronically. I do really thank you for one, asking our weather service folks to come back up to the village and for having us with you as well. And it's great to be with you. Any questions you have, we're here until you leave.